It's dinner time. You're at the table, and your parrot is on their perch a few feet away, watching every single bite you take. You know that look, the head tilt, the quiet little step closer, the soft chatter that basically translates to, "Give me some." So you do what feels natural. You tear off a piece of your toast, or you scoop a little rice onto a plate for them, or you let them nibble the edge of your sandwich. It feels like love. It feels like bonding. And most of the time, it's completely harmless. But some of what's sitting on your table right now, in totally normal everyday meals, is capable of stopping your parrot's heart. Not in a dramatic, obvious way, quietly, within hours. And most owners have no idea until it's already too late. What if I told you that one of the most common foods on this list is something almost every parrot owner has fed their bird this month, thinking it was perfectly safe? Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Mara Calloway, your neighborhood avian veterinarian, and welcome back to the channel. In my exam room, accidental food poisoning is one of the most heartbreaking calls I get because it is almost always preventable. Nobody ever means to hurt their bird, they just didn't know. So today, we are doing a complete masterclass on the 8 foods most likely to seriously harm or kill your parrot. Exactly why each one is dangerous and what to do if your bird has already eaten one of them. Grab a notebook because by the end of this video, you are going to know more about avian food safety than most people who have owned birds for years. Before we get into the list, I need you to understand one thing, because it changes how you'll look at your own kitchen for the rest of this video. Owners are constantly surprised that a food perfectly safe for their dog or their cat can be lethal to their parrot. Why the difference? It comes down to biology. A parrot's metabolism runs dramatically faster than a mammal's. Their resting heart rate can sit anywhere from 200 to over 400 beats per minute compared to around 80 for a human. Their respiratory system is also far more efficient and far more exposed. Birds have air sacs that pump air through their lungs in a continuous one-way flow, rather than the in and out breathing mammals use. That system is incredible for flight, but it also means that anything airborne or absorbed into their bloodstream circulates and affects their body much faster than it would in a dog, a cat, or a person. Add to that the fact that most parrots weigh somewhere between 50 grams and a kilogram, a tiny fraction of a human's body weight, and you can see why a dose of something that would barely register in a person can be catastrophic in a bird. Think of it like this. If a chemical spill happens in a massive lake, it gets diluted and the damage is contained. The exact same spill happening in a small backyard pond wipes out everything in it almost instantly. Your parrot's body is that small pond. Keep that image in your head as we go through this list, because it's the reason just a little bit is never actually a little bit to them. Let's start at the very top of the list, because this first one is without question the most dangerous food you can have anywhere near your parrot. Number 1 is avocado. If you keep just one fact from this entire video, let it be this one. Every part of the avocado plant, the flesh, the skin, the pit, and even the leaves, contains a compound called persin. Persin is what's known as a fungicidal toxin, meaning the plant produces it as a natural defense mechanism, and in mammals like us it's mostly harmless. But birds process it completely differently. In a parrot's body, persin attacks the heart muscle directly. It causes fluid to build up around the heart and lungs, and it can trigger sudden respiratory distress. Clinical signs typically start to appear within 12 hours of exposure, and in smaller birds especially, death can occur within 1 to 2 days. Smaller species like budgies, coquetials, and lovebirds tend to be the most sensitive, but larger parrots are not immune, and there are documented veterinary reports of larger species developing cardiac symptoms after repeated small exposures over time, rather than one big dose. That's part of what makes this one so sneaky. It isn't always instant. Sometimes it's a slow accumulation until the heart simply can't compensate anymore. And here's the part that catches owners off guard. There is no known safe amount. It doesn't matter if it's raw avocado mashed into guacamole, blended into a smoothie, or baked into avocado toast. Cooking does not destroy persin. If a dish has any avocado in it at all, it needs to stay completely away from your bird. If you ever suspect your parrot has eaten even a small amount of avocado in any form, this is not a wait-and-see situation. This is an emergency call to an avian vet, immediately. Number 2 is chocolate. Chocolate contains two compounds called theobromine and caffeine, which fall into a chemical family called methylxanthines. Humans metabolize these substances fairly efficiently, which is why a bar of chocolate just gives us a little energy boost. Birds cannot break these compounds down the same way, so instead of clearing out of the bloodstream, theobromine builds up and overstimulates the heart and nervous system. Even a small amount can cause vomiting, diarrhea, tremors, a dangerously elevated heart rate, seizures, and in severe cases, cardiac arrest. As a general rule, the darker and more bitter the chocolate, the higher the theobromine content, which means dark chocolate and baking chocolate are significantly more dangerous than milk chocolate. But I want to be clear, no form of chocolate is considered safe for a parrot. There are documented veterinary case reports of wild and pet parrots dying after ingesting quantities as small as a single piece of dark chocolate left unattended on a counter or a coffee table. Parrots are curious, dexterous, and remarkably good problem solvers when there's food involved, which means out of sight isn't always out of reach. If it's on your counter, in your baking supplies, or in a dessert you're eating on the couch, it needs to be somewhere your bird physically cannot get to. Number 3, and this is the one I promised you at the start of this video, because it is almost certainly sitting in your kitchen right now: onion and garlic. This one catches owners off guard because onion and garlic aren't scary the way avocado or chocolate are. They're just dinner. They're in your rice, your pasta sauce, your soup, your seasoned vegetables, your scrambled eggs. And a lot of owners will share a spoonful of whatever they're cooking with their bird without a second thought, because it doesn't feel like human junk food, it feels like a home-cooked, healthy meal. Here's why that's a problem. Onions and garlic contain sulfur compounds that damage the red blood cells in birds, leading to a condition called hemolytic anemia, where the body essentially starts destroying its own red blood cells faster than it can replace them. This isn't limited to raw onion. Cooked onion, powdered onion, dehydrated onion flakes, garlic powder, they all carry the same risk, and powdered concentrated forms can actually be worse because a small pinch contains the sulfur load of several whole cloves. Signs of onion and garlic toxicity tend to build gradually rather than appear instantly, which is part of what makes it so dangerous. You might see weakness, labored breathing, pale or discolored droppings, and general lethargy over the course of days as the anemia develops, long after the meal that actually caused it. That delay is exactly why so many cases go unconnected to the food that caused them. If you're cooking for yourself and want to share the moment with your bird, the safest move is to set aside a small, plain, unseasoned portion of a bird-safe ingredient before you add any onion or garlic to the dish at all. Number 4 is caffeine. Coffee, tea, energy drinks, and soda all fall into this category. And just like chocolate, caffeine is a methylxanthine that a bird's body cannot process safely. In a parrot, caffeine can cause a rapid heart rate, hyperactivity, tremors, and in high enough doses, seizures and heart failure. This one tends to sneak in during casual moments rather than deliberate feeding. Someone's drinking their morning coffee with their bird perched on their shoulder, and the bird dips its beak toward the mug purely out of curiosity, the same curiosity that makes them such wonderful interactive pets. Even a small sip can be enough to cause a reaction in a bird that size, because their body weight is such a tiny fraction of ours, going back to that small pond analogy from earlier. The safest approach is simple. Any caffeinated beverage stays capped, covered, or completely out of your bird's reach whenever they have free flight time. No exceptions, no just a little taste. Number 5 is alcohol. I want to be very direct about this one because it's more common than people think. Birds are frequently allowed to free fly around the house, especially during parties or gatherings, and an unattended glass of wine or beer left on a table is basically an open invitation for an intelligent, curious bird. Alcohol depresses a bird's central nervous system extremely quickly given how small their bodies are relative to the amount consumed. It can cause disorientation, loss of coordination, seizures, and death, sometimes within a matter of hours. There are documented cases in the veterinary literature of pet birds dying overnight after consuming leftover alcohol from glasses left out following a party, simply because nobody realized the bird had access to them while everyone slept. If you're having people over, or if there's ever alcohol in the house that your bird has free flight access to, treat every glass like it needs to be cleared the moment it's set down, the same way you'd treat a lit candle around a curious toddler. Number 6 is xylitol. This one is different from the others because it's not a natural food, it's an artificial sweetener and it hides in places most owners would never think to check. Sugar-free gum, sugar-free candy, certain peanut butters, some baked goods, protein bars, and a growing number of diet or sugar-free processed foods contain xylitol. In birds, xylitol causes a sudden, severe drop in blood sugar, which can rapidly progress to seizures and liver failure, and it can act fast enough to be one of the most acutely dangerous items on this entire list. If you ever give your parrot peanut butter as a treat, and many owners do because birds tend to love the taste and texture, you have to flip the jar around and actually read the ingredient label every single time, not just the first time you bought it because manufacturers reformulate products without warning. If xylitol appears anywhere on that label, that jar does not go anywhere near your bird, no matter how much they beg for it. Number 7 is fruit pits and seeds, specifically from apples, cherries, apricots, peaches, plums, and nectarines. Here's what makes this one tricky, and it trips up even well-meaning owners who are actively trying to feed their bird healthy. The flesh of these fruits is actually great for parrots, full of vitamins and natural moisture. It's the seeds and pits that are the problem. They contain a compound called amygdalin, which converts into hydrogen cyanide when it's metabolized. A parrot cracking open a cherry pit or chewing through an apple seed with that powerful built-for-cracking beak is exposing itself to a genuine cyanide risk, something that beak was quite literally designed to do efficiently. The safest habit to build is simple. Before you ever hand your bird a slice of apple or a piece of stone fruit, core it, deseed it, and remove every pit completely. Make it a reflex, the same way you'd automatically wash a vegetable before serving it to your own family. And number 8 is salt, and heavily processed high-sodium human food in general. Chips, crackers, pretzels, fast food, canned soups, deli meat, all of it. Parrots have an extremely low tolerance for sodium compared to humans. Their kidneys simply aren't built to filter out the amount of salt packed into a typical processed snack. Excess sodium disrupts fluid balance in a bird's body, and over time it stresses the kidneys, leads to excessive thirst, and in significant enough quantities can cause kidney failure or death. This one is dangerous specifically because it doesn't feel dangerous. Nobody hesitates before handing their bird a single pretzel or a French fry off their plate. But repeated small exposures add up in a body that small. And even a single high-sodium binge at a barbecue or a family gathering where a bird gets passed around and fed by 5 different people can be enough to cause an acute problem. So here is what I want you to walk away with today. 8 items, and I want you to actually picture your kitchen as I say them. Avocado in any form, chocolate, especially dark chocolate, onion and garlic, even hidden inside a cooked dish you didn't season yourself, caffeinated drinks, alcohol left unattended, anything containing xylitol, fruit pits and seeds, and salty, processed human snacks. If your bird has free flight time in your home, I want you to do a 5-minute walkthrough of your kitchen and living room tonight, the same way you'd childproof a house, and just look for these 8 things sitting within reach right now. If your parrot has already eaten something from this list, or you even suspect they might have, please do not wait to see if symptoms show up. Signs of toxicity in birds can include sudden lethargy, loss of balance or difficulty perching, labored or open-mouthed breathing, vomiting, tremors, seizures, and disorientation. Any one of those after a possible exposure is a genuine emergency. Birds hide illness instinctively as a survival mechanism, a leftover trait from being prey animals in the wild, which means by the time a symptom is visible to you, the underlying problem is often already advanced. Call an avian vet immediately. Don't wait it out overnight to see if it improves on its own. I know this was a lot of information, and I know it might feel a little overwhelming to think about everything sitting in your kitchen right now. But please don't let that turn into guilt. Almost every parrot owner has unknowingly shared one of these foods with their bird at some point, myself included, before I fully understood the science behind exactly how a bird's body differs from ours. The fact that you watched this entire video means your bird has an owner who actually wants to get this right. And that is genuinely the biggest factor in whether a bird thrives or struggles. If this masterclass helped you look at your kitchen a little differently today, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this kind of accurate, veterinary-backed information reach more bird owners who need it before an accident happens rather than after. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into avian health because we've barely scratched the surface of what's out there. And I'd love to know down in the comments which one of these 8 surprised you the most. Was it the onion and garlic, or was it something else on this list you didn't expect? Give your feathery friend a gentle head scratch from me tonight. Keep that kitchen counter clear, and I'll see you in the next video.